Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. It's good to have you with us. Today's guest is John McMillan. John is the Executive Director of the Alabama Cannabis Commission, and he's been on our show a number of times because we're all clinging to the news and what we see in the news about what's going on with the law and related matters regarding the ultimate opening of cannabis dispensaries for the purpose of medical treatment in Alabama. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks. Great to be with you again.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Always.
All is well in Montgomery?
Hanging in there. Yes, sir.
Well, so in 90 words or less, but you'll get 22 minutes to actually explain it, where are we at this point in time?
Well,
we are in the fall of 2023, and we were trying to get open by the end of the year. I have my doubts.
Right. Well, the legislation passed in May of 21. We went to work October the 1st of 21, and I had hoped that it would take about 2 years to get the program up and running with all the different requirements of the legislation, and as well as just the mechanics of starting a new state agency and that sort of thing. We're not going to make my hoped for deadline, but I'm still optimistic. I've been, frankly, pretty discouraged, but not disappointed, but not discouraged, I should say, because of all the litigation. That's the biggest problem we got now, is wading through the litigation and getting to the point we can start doing all the other things we've prepared to do in this process for making medical cannabis available to Alabamians that really do need it. And there are a number of things. It certainly is an asset to patients.
So you mentioned litigation, and as a lawyer, I'm comfortable in saying if it weren't for lawyers, we wouldn't need lawyers, because we sort of thrive on that word.
Well, it always takes two sides. So the lawyers are...
It's the good news and the bad news.
The lawyers are feasting right now.
I think that's what Shakespeare meant when he said, "Let's kill all the lawyers." So we eliminate problems like this. But we have made progress, tremendous progress. So why don't we talk about the positive?
Let's do that.
And what's going on in a positive way, where we have moved from where we started to where we are now. We understand we're not quite where we want to be, but
right.
Where are we?
Well, the first thing I want to do is commend the commission themselves. The appointing authorities did a great job. We've got a good commission. We've got a very competent staff, and we are going through the process of all the many things that are required to do this besides just the issuance of licenses. We think that we know we've tried to leave politics out of it as much as possible. We think we've been successful at that, probably because of some of the lawsuits. But anyway, we have done things like put together a staff, and we're in the process of putting together the inspection program. We're going to have a couple of people out in the field to inspect the cultivating facilities, the processing facilities, the transportation, everything that's a part of this process, including training the employees for the dispensaries and those kind of things. The State Medical Association and Board of Medical Examiners have done a fantastic job in getting their part of this program up and running. For a number of months, they've just been waiting on us to get these licenses out and get the operations side of it going. That's the growing and the processing and the dispensaries.
Well, you say people in the field that have to inspect and do the things they have to do. Does that mean that, in light of the fact that there have been licenses issued, I think, although they're subject or on hold, for lack of a better word, that there's actual construction going on and actual tilling of soil going on, and people are lining up trucks to be able to transport, and buildings are being leased to be able to dispense from? Are those things happening?
They are happening, for better or worse. Through the application process, applicants were basically required to tell us where they wanted to locate dispensaries, for example. So people have gone out and leased facilities, and they're having to pay rent. So there's a lot of economic issues that are affecting some of the applicants, the successful applicants in particular. Let me clarify the awarding and the issuance of license. The first step is the awarding of licenses, and then 28 days or so later, the licenses can be issued. So that's the difference between really people having a license in hand and being able to start their whatever role their license allows in the process. And that's where the litigation has got everything on hold at this point.
Yeah, but I would think, so someone gets awarded a license and then someone gets issued a license. It's not like that happens on a Friday and a door opens in a dispensary on a Monday.
Yeah, there are requirements in that interim process, the major one being paying the license fee, for example.
And are those flat rates, or are they based on some gross percentage of
They are,
revenues?
well, they are based on flat rates at this point. Yeah. The maximum one is integrated license, which is $50,000 a year.
And that's the license that allows someone who possesses an integrated license to be able to plant, grow,
Yeah,
transport, and dispense.
that's right.
All
That's
one
the big
license.
one, and that's where all the lawsuits are originating. And
So
we
they're
can
all
talk
around
about
that one piece.
That's the tough one, yeah.
All right, we'll talk about the others when we come
Okay.
back from break. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham. We're talking about medical cannabis in Alabama. It's our third visit with Mr. McMillan in trying to see and keep you abreast of when we're going to get that ultimately to the consumer. And we were talking about the integrated license, which is the most difficult, most expensive, and apparently the one that must be the most profitable, because it's the subject matter of most of the litigation. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct, yeah, most of the litigation. And the root of that problem is the legislation allows the commission to issue only 5 licenses to the integrated applicants. We have 38 applicants, and each one of them, naturally so, you and me would be the same, feels that they had the very best application. So therein lies the problem. The people that got the awards initially, they're doing everything they can to prepare to start business, and the folks that were unsuccessful, a significant number, I'd say about a third of the ones that did not were not successful applicants, in court trying to, I don't know what their end game is, but they're trying to ultimately get a license one way or another, I guess.
So you've essentially culled 38 down to 10 or 15, if you're litigating with a third of them.
Yeah, and that may be even a little bit more than that, but that's roughly, I think just roughly in my, the way I see it, about a third of the 33 that didn't get licenses or didn't get awards, nobody's gotten a license, are suing us. About another third have just packed up and gone home. Said, you know, I was not successful. I'm going to take my investment somewhere else. And then another third are just kind of waiting to see what happens.
So this is Tommy Spinak, observer speaking. When the awards came out, it seemed to be South Alabama heavy. That was just my reaction initially. When I say South Alabama, I'm talking about Baldwin County and surrounding areas. Did I misinterpret that, or is that in fact is that something to do with the climate, the soil? Is there some other reason?
Well,
why that would be?
we had 90 applicants with all the license categories. And so if you look at just the numbers of licenses awarded and use I-20 as a dividing line, it was about 50-50.
Oh, okay.
But there were far fewer applicants from North Alabama, like in the integrated category, for example. They were much more heavily weighted to South Alabama, the Wiregrass area, Montgomery. I'd say Montgomery and South.
Well, the facilities, the grow facilities are mostly indoor facilities, I trust?
Yes, sir. That's another thing folks need to be aware of is you don't just go out and plant. A lot of people, we had just started the hemp program, for example, and a lot of folks in Alabama thought this was just going, instead of planting hemp, we're going to plant marijuana plants. That's not the way it works. It's a highly technical, heat, air, lights, all of those things that go with growing quality cannabis plants for the medical cannabis industry.
And I suspect from an economic standpoint, as a person who is wanting to be issued a license, there's a pretty significant front end load financially. I'm
Absolutely,
guessing.
absolutely. We are told from $10 to $20 million from experience in other states.
And are we having out of state people want to come here? Or are we mostly within our state? We're probably trying to keep it within our state.
Yeah, the intent of the legislature was to try to make it as much Alabama industry as possible. Now, the problem with that is you start running into commerce clauses and things like that, as you are well aware. So the legislation requires 51% of the ownership to be Alabama residents. But what, as a practical standpoint, happened in most cases, and we are talking about integrators now in this whole section here,
Yeah.
but the Alabama folks do have 51% according to the applications, but they mostly went out and teamed up or partnered with the national cannabis companies that are in, we are with medical cannabis. We are over 40 states now.
Okay.
So there's a significant industry that's been going on 10, 12 years, starting in Washington and California and Colorado out that way. So there's a lot of experience and a lot of big players in this whole deal.
So the local folks have joint ventured with some of these people?
That's
Is
basically
that a word?
what we've observed in the applications.
And in addition to the integrated license, then the next step down would be what?
Well, they're cultivators, processors, transporters, labs, dispensaries, and the whole gamut that goes. The integrators have that from seed to sale all the way through, as you said earlier. But the others, for example, this would be growing it and selling it to a processor.
The processor would then package it?
Right, and they would sell it to somebody that has a dispensary license, or even maybe to an integrator that's operating dispensaries.
It sounds like this industry is going to create a lot of jobs for Alabamians.
We believe it will. We hadn't tried to calculate those numbers, but certainly it will. If we're able to get these licenses issued, it's going to be a significant economic impact, particularly in small places where a lot of these facilities are going to be built, like the growing and the processing in smaller places. Dispensaries, on the other hand, will be more likely to be located where the populations are in urban areas, and I think that has to do with the balance of where the licensees were located, for example.
You're talking about the dispensing
right.
licenses.
The dispensers would be heavy to urban areas. And the cities and counties had to sign off on all these locations as well. So we've had some areas of the state, for example, Shelby County. I don't think they've allowed any locations. So those folks are going to have to go to Birmingham.
I don't find that to be surprising. Don't leave me. This is Our Issues Birmingham. Sorry, Shelby County. It's just something I am not shocked to hear. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go away. Welcome back to Our Issues Birmingham, and I apologize to the viewers in Shelby County if I seemed terse. I didn't mean it that way, but I do have a question. What is the number one question that you at the commission and others get from citizens?
That's all reports on our website from commission members and certainly the staff. The number one question we get is when are these products going to be available to the patients? And that's a really good question. My short answer is, tell me how many more lawsuits we're going to get. But there are a significant number of Alabamians that really need these products, and unfortunately, what's happening is this whole process and all the delays are forcing Alabamians to go to other states and illegally obtain these products, and that's not a good thing.
So there's a regimen, I trust, that the medical professionals have put in place before a physician would issue a script for medical cannabis, correct?
That's right. That's absolutely right. And as I said earlier, the doctors have really done their job with the medical association, and they've got their rules and regulations have been adopted, and it is not a prescription but a recommendation. And then Aaliyah has just done a fantastic job working with us on. We'll have patient ID cards, very much like a driver's license. We've got seed-to-sale tracking that'll track and prescription recommendation tracking. If you get stopped and you've got one of these patient cards, the officer can immediately go online and tell when you got that recommendation, how much you have obtained through dispensaries from that recommendation, everything about who the doctor was and what you have in possession, all of that information. And the plants are tracked from the time they're about 8 inches high. They get an ID number, and even the waste from that plant as it goes through the process of growing and processing has to be accounted for by that plant number right down to the individual plant. So there's a heck of a lot we've done in preparation for all of this if we can just get those licenses out and get the program moving.
Why do we draw that distinction that you brought up between prescription and recommendation?
Just because
is that a medical requirement?
Not really, indirectly maybe, but because federally all of this is still illegal, and that's a problem. I mentioned about patients getting it from other states. It's illegal to cross the state lines with it.
Well, I think what our current president did was essentially put a stick in the spokes of possession of marijuana. I use marijuana.
Yeah, that's fine. It's the same,
not
sense.
Politically
Right,
correct,
I understand.
perhaps, but I did grow up in the 60s, and that's what we called it then, and we still call it that. But
yeah, sure.
medical cannabis, I just wondered, they're not prosecuting federal possession cases of cannabis.
No, and they've even some parts of the executive branch have even recommended changing the classification because marijuana is scheduled like cocaine and some of the other really
Heroin.
hard drugs,
It's
and
right up there.
this whole thing is causing problems with
Opiates are
fentanyl.
scheduled too. Go figure.
Yeah, that's right. How do you
makes
figure
plenty of
that?
sense, doesn't it?
And this is one of the things that with
Thanks,
pain relief,
Montgomery.
patients can get away from a lot of these addictive opioids and use medical cannabis, for example.
So just to refresh the recollection of the viewers, what specific disabilities qualify for a recommendation?
nationally, the numbers I've seen indicate about 82% of the recommendations are for chronic pain. But there's a number of other things like seizures and Parkinson's, and there's even a lot of work going on with PTSD and some of those things that the cannabis is effective. And that's what's crazy in a sense about the federal side of this, because at the same time we've got all the Drug Enforcement Agency rules and regulations and penalties and everything else. You got the Veterans Administration giving grants to research how effective it might be working with PTSD and some of those issues.
Did we work through the banking issues and the
It
funds?
looks like Congress is finally going to address the safe banking aspect of it, which means it no longer be an all cash business. And that's one of the problems. What better way for cartels or whoever to launder cash than to get in this business?
So the feds have now gotten involved in the banking regulations that in a perfect world will eliminate the cash only requirement.
That's right. Congress seems poised finally to address this, because you can imagine what happens, and especially in those western states, with the crime with cash in dispensaries. That's a huge problem. And I have to give a shout out to our state treasurer, Young Boozer, who is chairman of the National State Treasurers Organization and has been chairman of their banking committee and done a tremendous amount of effective work on this.
In closing, for those viewers who would like to know what they need to do when the day comes and what disabilities qualify for the recommendation, what would you suggest they do?
People need to go to our website. It's amcc.alabama.gov, and it's got the legislation, it's got the rules and regulations, it's got the medical requirements, and the legislation itself lays out the specific patient issues that are necessary to get a recommendation from doctors, and that's all in there as well. So almost anything anybody could want to know, and we still take questions on our portal, which we try to answer quickly.
A human being, good gracious, what's this world coming to? I tried to change something today and I couldn't get through AI. I'm gonna start doing this show, AI. Thanks, John. This is Our Issues Birmingham. We appreciate you coming down from Monkey Town and being with us.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's always good to try to let folks know what's going on and the efforts we're making to get this program underway.
Great. This is Our Issues Birmingham. As I said, we'll see you next Sunday.